Oh, yeah. You're free. You are free to turn it around. Thank God. You are free to start telling a better story, one that feels better. You're free to turn it around. Whatever it is, you're free to turn it around. Isn't that refreshing? Thank you, Amy Steinberg. What? What? You're free to turn it around. So, happy birthday to my daddy. Today is his birthday. He has since left this earthly plane, but today is his birthday. We can clap for Daddy. And he represents John Walton. We can get a clap for that. He was quite a wonderful human being, and still is in my heart, and today is his birthday. And so he's very much in my talk today because he lived his life by turning it around. And it was never a question whether the glass was half full or not. It was full, even if it had that much in it, it was full. It was always good in it, and he looked for it, and he taught us to do the same. And so inspiring. He always said that, you know, everything's working out. Everything's working out. It was the way he lived, anyway, I should say that. It was more of the way he lived. He didn't say a whole lot. When he did, we listened. And but one of his favorite Bible verses was Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for them that love God, for them that love the Lord, in the translation. All things work together for them that love God. And so that's very much going throughout my talk today, that everything is working together for good. Everything is working together for your good is the premise of the science of mind philosophy that we teach here. That life is surrounding you at this very moment, wanting access through you, as you. That's what your life is doing. It is all of the desires that you have, all of the dreams, everything. You couldn't dream it if it wasn't already so. You couldn't even imagine it if it wasn't already completely formed in the mind of God. Completely formed and ready to take shape as your experience with your allowing of it. Hey, that's some good stuff. So, that's exciting. So the title of my talk today is Love's Garden, because it's spring. And it's, you know, I'm talking about the garden of your soul. I put on Facebook yesterday or the day before that we, you know, that, I don't remember exactly what I said, but basically, let your garden unfold. You know, let it unfold, but clearly, with your vision, your mission intact. Do you have a mission? Do you know what your personal mission statement is? Have you ever thought about doing that? We do them for jobs, we do them for resumes. But have you ever made one for yourself? What are you here for? Get clear about that, because you have to set that intention. You have to set your direction for somewhere. You go anywhere. So, gardening. The garden of our soul. So the garden of our soul is this blossom that blooms one perfect blossom after another. Just as it was planted, one perfect plant after another. We're going to talk about that more. And what an inspiration. I have a friend here today for the first time who has the most amazing yard. Love it, love it, love it. And I don't know, 17 years or something you've been in that house? 18 years. And I'm like, so every time I think, oh, I don't know if I want to go buy a plant because it's going to take forever to look like Kelly's yard. I think, well, it's never going to look like Kelly's yard if I don't go buy something. So I bought some plants this weekend. We'll get to that in a minute. So, everything working out one piece at a time. Tending the garden of our soul is a talk I did a few years ago because, you know, springtime, the garden thing. But it is the metaphor that I want us to continually come back to, because we are, whether we choose to or not, we are a garden that is either covered in weeds, whether we choose to recognize it or not. It's either covered in weeds or it's beautiful. It's exquisitely manicured. So I want us to look at that today. I want us to look at understanding what Ernest Holmes called the law of good, that everything is moving for you. Or as the Tao Te Ching says in verse 29, it says that everything is a movement towards your perfection. But the Greek root of the word perfection is completion, wholeness. So everything is moving you forward to your greatest expression. That's when people like Les Brown, one of my favorite motivational people out there, when people like Les Brown say, you got greatness within you. Well, you do. And everything is moving you toward expressing that greatness. But it's up to us whether we allow it or not. It's up to us whether we nurture that garden in that direction or not. Whether we tell our story in a way that feels good or not. You got to understand the importance of telling your story. When I say telling your story, I don't just mean, you know, when you go into AA or something, they say, tell us your story. Now, that's one kind of story. But I mean, You're telling a story every day. In every conversation, how are you doing today? Oh man, I'm great. I'm so excited about my life. How are you doing today? Well, hanging in there. You're telling a story. And that's the story that you're living. Watch the story that you're living. And if you're not clear what it is, feel it. Because if you're feeling good, you're telling a great story. And if you're feeling like, not so good, the story you're telling is not so good. And you're not just telling a story as in talking. You're telling a story as in creating that story into being as your life. You're creating a story with every word. We have a member here who, as you know, I married Angie and Scott a couple months ago. And was it just last month? Wow, time flies. Anyway, married them up here on the stage, and it was such a beautiful wedding. And she had gone through this really severe back injury and back surgery, and didn't want to wait any longer for the wedding that they'd been planning. They said, let's do it now. I want to get married. I don't want to waste another day, another minute. I want to be by this person's side. So they got married, and that's the side note. But her back pain was something we've been talking about. And she said, it's just, I'm trying to do what you say and be positive and everything, but people ask me because they care, how are you doing? And the truth is, I'm in excruciating pain. That's the truth. Ever had your back fused? Hello? Painful. Any kind of back injury is painful, but this was a major surgery. So she's in excruciating pain. She's got people who care about her every single day saying, how you doing? And she doesn't want to lie, but she feels like, not good. So I said, I had a little incident that happened a few years ago. Some of you remember when the horse fell on me. That's a whole other talk and a whole other story. But I saved the horse. I did. It's all good. But in the process, I tore ligaments across my lower back. Took me a while to feel normal again after that. And it was excruciating pain. Now, that was probably a millimeter of what she's experiencing, but yet I can relate because it was debilitating for me for about 6 weeks. And 6 months till I finally fully recovered. Anyway, so I told her what I did. I said, I went through the same thing. And what I said was, you know what? I'm getting better every day. Because that was the truth. Because I believe that we are always on a spiral outward and upward of more and more and more wholeness. And I believe that there is a power back of all things that is life itself moving us forward. It is complete. It is perfect health. It is perfect finances. It is perfect relationship. It is perfect everything to the degree that we allow it. So I was determined that I was going to stay in the vibration, the feeling nature of, I feel good. So I kept saying, I'm feeling better every day. And the more I said that, the better I felt, and the better I felt, and the better I felt, and the better I felt. So the story that you're telling is so, so very important. Now, when things happen that feel, not just physical pain, but maybe it's a loss or some kind of challenge that just feels like, how am I supposed to feel good about this? How am I supposed to find the good in this, as Reverend Christy says? You can. You always can, and I don't care what it is. So I have a couple little stories I want to weave into my talk today. One is a little story that does involve my dad. So he lived his life full out and was a wonderful father and husband and friend and person in the community, and he lived fully expressed. Even took up a new career at the age of 72 and decided to sell real estate because he liked to drive around, he liked to talk to people. He wouldn't buy from Andy Griffin, so he did really well. He went into the hospital because he was having a hard time breathing and had no idea that he was not going to come home. None of us did. And it was open heart surgery, and it was a lot more complicated than we thought. And then it turned out he had cirrhosis of the liver, even though he never took a drink in his life. It was just bizarre. All the things that happened that ended up with him not coming home with us from that hospital. That was on July 25th. Then on April 28th, 8 years ago today, my best friend in the whole world, on my dad's birthday, passed away. And so when I tell you to find the good in stuff, I'm not just up here talking. I've done it and live it. It's how I live my life. Because let me tell you what happened out of those two things. When my dad passed away in July 2004, Renee and I were traveling around the country singing at different churches every single Sunday. We were home 4 or 5 days a month. We were gone all the time. And we were craving community. And so when we'd come home, our 1 weekend a month, we would have some time of a little community thing. Some of you, Mary and Susan came to our house, and Nancy, I believe, for a solstice celebration or something. And, we'd have little community events to try and fill that hole. We wanted community so much. Then when he passed away, I was, as many of you know, when you have a grief like that, you have to just surrender to it. You have to feel it. And I did, and I said, I can't do anything. I canceled everything. We had retreats planned, we had trips planned, we had all these things planned, and I canceled everything for 3 months. Because I canceled everything for 3 months, in October, this church, then called the Center for Positive Living, asked us, can you please come and speak? Just pretend you're the ministers for a month. We need a break from having a different speaker every Sunday because we don't have a minister right now. Please just come pretend you're our ministers. And we're like, us? Seriously? Sure. So we did. And we had an amazing time. At the end of that month, it was 5 Sundays. At the end of those 5 Sundays, the morning of the 5th Sunday, we were drinking coffee, we looked across at each other in our study, and I said, I think, and she says, I was like, you go first. No, you. I think we're supposed to put in a proposal to be the ministers of this church. She goes, I know, me too. Isn't that the craziest thing? I wasn't a minister, she wasn't a minister. That's crazy. It's like going to school and saying, hey, I love kids, can I work here? They interviewed us alongside ordained ministers from all over the country and Canada, and they hired us. And we went ahead and continued. We are licensed ministers now, just so you know. But we went ahead and continued our work. But do you get that never would have, that possibility would not even have been on my radar if my dad had not passed away? I always feel like he hand-delivered me to you. He brought me here. And then when my best friend, he was my brother. Oh my God, I love this man. Still do, my Brian. When he passed away on my dad's birthday, 9 months from when my dad passed away, are you kidding me? As if that day wasn't going to be emotional enough. Oh, and here's what happens if you don't deal with the grief from one loss. When another one comes, that first one's still there. Yeah. So I thought I dealt with it, and then I gave myself a statute of limitations. I was like, 3 months is enough to grieve. Going back on the road after that, which we didn't because we came here. But 3 months wasn't enough to grieve losing your father. For me, for everybody, it's different. So when my best friend passed away, it was like a tsunami on me of grief, and 20 people, around 20. We honestly lost count. But close to 20 people from 2003 to 2005 passed away. People that were close to us. We're talking about good friends, best friends, dad, family members, grandmother. Congregate, more than one. More than one people that were like congregants, but one from this community. So almost 20